Hi, welcome. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. This is webinar 2 in a series that Micah and I are doing, but if you did not join us for our first webinar, certainly no worries there. This is a standalone webinar for sure to talk about what you might need to know and help you avoid some pitfalls in potentially selling your business. So whether you have a business that you're looking to sell now, whether you yourself are an advisor to people who are selling businesses and are maybe looking to learn more about the process of selling a business, we hope that this will be useful for you all. This is going to be really kind of a high level overview. If you have your own business or if you're an advisor and looking to advise people and you'd like a little bit deeper dive, Micah and I are totally willing to hop on a call with you for 30 minutes and talk about your specific situation, particularly if you're in a different place in the process. So at this point, we'll go ahead, wanted to give it a minute or so, but we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll turn it over to Micah to talk a little bit about Equitable, who is presenting with us today, and to introduce himself to you as well.
Thank you, Jacquelyn. Thanks everyone for being here. Really excited for this topic. It's a really important topic. People are more interested than ever with everything that's going on in the state of the small business world right now to make sure that they understand these things. So it's really important, and we're really glad that you're here. And if there's anyone that you know who should pay attention to this, make sure you send them the recording when you get it, because we want to get this info out to as many people as possible. So I'm going to briefly introduce Equitable to you. We've been around for a long time, over 160 years. We're based, or my office is in Pittsburgh. We've been here for 140 years, not me personally, obviously, but we've been here for that long. We manage about $250 billion in assets and about 3 million clients and 4,500 financial professionals across the country. Our local office here in Pittsburgh, we have a team of experts. We have CFPs, CPAs, retirement planning specialists, business succession planning specialists, estate planning specialists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when you're working with us, you're working with a team of experts. You're not just working with an individual advisor. We do just about everything on the map. I'm not going to go through all of these, obviously, but one of the things that I want to share with you is that if there's any area of your business, whether it's group benefits, the 401k plan, executive benefits, key person coverage, et cetera, that you're not happy with, we have the ability to do a review and go out and shop for potentially better opportunities for you and your business. We work with all these different companies. We've built relationships with just about every investment company and every insurance company that's out there. So we have the ability to go out and find you the best value for your dollar in any area that you are interested in. So that's all I have as a quick intro to Equitable. I'm going to turn it back over to Jacquelyn to let her talk about her firm.
I am Jacquelyn Core, and I am a partner at the Lynch Law Group. I co-chair our corporate practice group here at Lynch, and we are really a boutique business firm, but we are full service. So if there are any needs that you have, you can certainly reach out to us and we can connect you with the right person. I focus my practice on primarily mergers and acquisitions work. So about 75% of what I do is M&A. We do both buy side and sell side work. And then also the other probably 25% of my practice is what we call fractional in-house counsel work. I do a lot of contracts work and general business advising. So if you have a business and you have any legal needs from a corporate perspective, any contract needs, I am certainly a person that can help you. And we're lucky, as you can see, to have won some awards for the firm. We have lawyers listed as best lawyers, as super lawyers, and we've been both a fastest growing workplace and a best place to work. So we're super excited about that. We love the culture of our firm and love working together. Same with Micah. You can see many practice groups here, 16 of them in all. We are 23 attorneys strong in 3 offices. And you can see the business focus here, but certainly, as I mentioned, a full service firm and looking to really meet the needs of our clients with a focus on good client service and making sure that we have excellent communication and that we are communicating with our clients and really being strategic for them and providing strategic solutions. So I think I lost, oh, there we go. I lost our slides for a minute, but they're back now. So today we're here to talk about planning to sell your business. So you might not be in a place right now where you are actively planning to sell. You might not be in a place where you are currently searching for a buyer. You might be thinking about an exit down the road, or you may be thinking, now's the time for me to get out. So regardless of where you are in the process, we think this will be useful to you. We're going to talk about an overview of the process, a lot of the pitfalls of buying and selling, and really try to kind of get your head around what this process looks like of planning to sell your business, both from a personal perspective, and Micah's going to talk a lot about that in terms of your personal investment strategy and how that dovetails with what you're trying to do when you sell a business, and then how you actually go about selling it and what that process looks like. So why selling is easier than buying? So normally when we think about sales, we always think about buying as being the easier of the two aspects. If you're a salesperson, you're out there trying to convince people to buy your product, and you're really trying to have to sell them on the benefits, have to convince them to even look at you. Selling is actually easier than buying. And so when it comes to companies, not selling everything, but when it comes to companies, you are really in the driver's seat when it comes to selling your business. Many people are looking to buy businesses right now. It is definitely a buyer's market. And so when you make a decision to sell, it may be because you've been approached by somebody who has come to you and said, hey, we'd like to make an offer on your business. I have people call me all the time that weren't planning to sell, who've been contacted by somebody, and there are sellers out there actively looking for business. There's really a ton of money in the market right now, and also a ton of money right now available in things like non-control capital, where people are looking to invest if you maybe want to take some chips off the table right now, but aren't in a place where you want to fully divest yourself of the business. Finding a buyer, the question might be, okay, well, if it's easier to sell than it is to buy, how do I find a buyer? There are brokers that are out there for that, but this really begins about positioning your company and getting your company in a place where you'll be attractive to buyers. And then it might not be the case that buyers completely find you, but through a network of people who would be involved in this mergers and acquisitions process, we know a lot of buyers and people within that network, whether it's your wealth manager, whether it's your accountant, know people who are looking for buyers. So sometimes even finding a private buyer can be an easy thing. So how do you get ready? If you really, what you need is to get ready. How do you get ready then? Well, one of the things you do to get ready is a process on the legal side that we sometimes call reverse diligence. So as a part of the purchase process, there's a portion of that process called diligence. And diligence happens when you are selling your business and the buyer comes in and they say to you, here's everything we'd like to know from you to really evaluate your business and make a determination that we want to buy it and that it's a good deal, that everything is in order. So one of the things that we do to assist with preparedness sometimes is a process we call reverse diligence. So what we do with the seller is we actually come together with the seller in advance of the business being ready to sell. And we say, what are all of the things a potential buyer would ask of you? Do you have all your corporate documents in place? What do your contracts look like? Do you have contracts management? On the financial side, do you have aged AR or uncollectible AR that's hanging out there? What's your debt look like for your business? And so we talk through all these things that buyers will be asking of you in the process, except we do it in reverse. We do it before you're actually out there marketing your business. And what that does is it creates this nice clean package where when you're ready to find a buyer, then you're ready to kind of proceed to that next step. You've got this package of information that puts your business in the best possible light. A lot of people also, as a part of this readiness, will work to increase the value of your business. And so there are people out there who engage specifically in that and can assist you with creating value in the business. But a lot of this comes from really thinking about, are you operating your business like the operations of a business, or are you operating your business to prepare to sell? And those are sometimes two completely different things. And so what we see when people are mired down in operations, particularly of small businesses or of family businesses, this is very common, is they'll be taking maximum deductions. They're trying to decrease the profits of their company so they have to pay less tax. And so anything they can deduct, they will. And then also often personal items or personal deductions will creep into those companies, which might be completely above board, but have the impact, although maybe unintended, of actually reducing the value of the business. And so if you're taking all of those deductions and you're decreasing the revenue of the company, when it comes time to sell, you have a buyer that shows up and looks at your company and says, well, this business isn't making much money. So part of this process of getting ready to sell your business is really thinking about how your operations are functioning. And do your operations look like you're poised for growth? Do they maximize the revenue in the business? Have you really maybe even decreased your deductions so that your business looks as profitable as it can look and it's as attractive as it can possibly look to a buyer? So one of the questions people ask when they make a decision to sell is, what is my company worth? And here we want to begin with a caution. And that caution is not to listen to the people at the country club about how much they sold their company for. So often people will come to us and say, I know somebody that sold a company just like mine, and this is the multiple that they got. And when we talk about multiples, we're talking about multiples of revenue or multiples of EBITDA. So your earnings before certain deductions can be in place. And that multiple can be really deceiving. It can change depending on the type of buyer you have. It can change based on the type of company. And then also we know that not everyone sitting at the country club is always honest about the value that they got for their individual company. So you really want to work with somebody that can help you drill down and figure out what your company is worth. And this normally starts with your own accountant. And if you have an accountant that is not really business savvy or is not involved in M&A, or maybe isn't certified to do valuations, and you want a formal valuation or a certified valuation, you may need a different provider for that. It's similar to selecting your legal counsel. A lot of people, when they're looking to sell their business, have an amazing lawyer who does a really good job for them. They might have a really close relationship with them. It's maybe somebody they went to college with, or it's somebody they've known their whole life, and that person knows their business really intimately and does a great job, but doesn't typically do mergers and acquisitions. And mergers and acquisitions work, the buying and selling of businesses, is very, very specific. It's very detailed work, and it's specialized. And so one of the things we always try to make people understand is you might need a different accountant, or you might need a different lawyer to do your merger and acquisition transaction than you might need for other purposes. Similarly, to put a finer point on what Micah does, you also might need a different wealth manager. Maybe you were previously in a position where you were contributing to a 401k, or you were dumping money into an IRA, but what you haven't had is you have not had these this corpus of cash that you might get when you sell your business. So you might need different advisors at this point in your business career. Factors that drive value. Here you really want to make yourself dispensable. We never want to think about ourselves as somebody that if you walked away today, they could operate without you. Nobody needs you. But when it comes to increasing the value of your business, the exact thing you want to do is really decrease your own importance in the company. And that sounds very counterintuitive. But the reality is, what you want is you want people to be able to step in and have the same value in the company without relying on you individually to bring that value. And so if you have really key person dependence and there isn't anyone else to take over, that can be a real problem. Also, if you can cultivate a key person, that person becomes a potential buyer. And so sometimes people forget to look internal for buyers of their company. But if you have a key person that you've been working with who might be a younger person, you've been bringing them up in the ranks, they've been learning the business intimately, they've been helping you, that person can also be a potential buyer. Other factors that drive value, obviously cash drives value. The amount of revenue you have, the liquidity of your company, and how you're able to position yourself for profit. Those things go without saying, the money aspects of value. Your people drive value. Do you have really talented people? Do you have people who are well qualified? Do you have people who are poised to be continuing employees for somebody who might come in and buy your company? What your company looks like drives value. So if somebody comes to look at your business, are there burnout light bulbs and stains on the ceiling tiles, or do you look like a place that really looks like a great top shape business? And so you don't think about those things as driving the value of your business, but those impressions, they actually do matter, and they do make people willing to pay more for your company. And then there's always wiggle room. When you want to talk about what's your company worth, this is not a hard and fast analysis. And so you can get a number even from a formal valuation, but your company might be worth more or less depending on how you're positioned. And as a seller, one of the things that you can look for is look for a really strategic buyer. Sometimes buyers can be found in your competition. Nobody wants to think about sharing their business secrets with the competition, and that's why having a non-disclosure agreement is so important. But often your competitors, if you're going to go out of business, your competitors, they want your customer list. They might want your equipment. They might want your human capital, your people who are really experts in your business, your salespeople who have relationships or have a part of the market that they don't have. And those things all fit into that wiggle room that you might really have some increased value that you can sell if you have those resources to offer. And so you really have opportunities here to drive value beyond your value on the books by getting somebody who might be strategic. Other strategic positions might be if you're in somebody's supply chain, right? If you're running a business and you're buying the same raw materials over and over again, and you can buy that supplier of raw materials, or if you are the supplier of raw materials, think about who you're supplying to. Those are all ways to find somebody in the value chain where you might be really valuable to them, and they might be willing to pay more than your paper valuation because you're offering them something that's really strategic to their business.
I just want to add one thing here. So specifically around people, it costs money to keep good people, right? There's benefits that people expect, and there's compensation and all those things. But think about what we're talking about here. As a business owner, you have to have a return on investment mindset in terms of positioning your business for sale. So maybe in order to maximize the sale of your business, you need to ensure that 4 or 5 key people stay at your company for the next 10 years. How are you going to do that? Those are questions that you need to start thinking about and start having conversations with your deal team about on how do we actually position this correctly. And I use people as an example because it's a kind of easy one. Like, people want good compensation, they want good benefits. So how are you providing those things, and what investment are you willing to make in that area, because you know that it's going to multiply the amount of money you're able to take home when you ultimately walk away.
That's a great point, Micah. And the investment that you make in those people can really increase the value of your business.
All right, let's talk a little bit more personal planning for a second. So Jacquelyn mentioned something that I think is the the bane of every small business owner, small to mid-sized business owner, is that you at some point get sucked into the weeds of what your business is all about. And sometimes we forget why we initially got into the business. So what I want to do is I want to take you through an exercise. We're going to do a couple things here. And I want you to close your eyes, forget about running the business for a second, which I know is next to impossible. Jacquelyn and I both run businesses, we run practices, we understand how challenging it is, but I want you just for 5 minutes, stop thinking about running your business and think about why you started your business. What was the goal? Obviously, your business may solve a need, but oftentimes it goes beyond what your business actually does for people, and it has a personal component. There's a reason you got into the business. There's a reason that you choose to work harder than everybody else in your business. There's a reason you get up earlier and stay up later. And usually it's not just because of what your business does. Usually there's goals behind that. And I want you to recapture those for a minute. Think about the lifestyle that you intended to live, the promise of either financial freedom, flexibility of schedule, whatever that is, that it was a driving factor for you to decide to become an entrepreneur. And I want you to put that on the front of your mind. Now I want to ask you to ask yourself, how am I doing? Like, can I say for certain that I am taking the right steps towards that ultimate goal that I envisioned when I started my business last year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago? Am I doing the right things necessary to actually accomplish the goals that I put out? I would encourage you all, take right now, write down what are some of these goals that I initially said I wanted to do, and where am I at? Give yourself easy scale of 1 to 10. Where am I at on each of these goals? Whether it's the financial stability, where am I at? The freedom of schedule, where am I at? Building a company that makes an impact, where am I at? Go through those things and give yourself a rating, because we get so sucked into the mundane details of day-to-day business that we forget to take a step back and look at the big picture. So I want you to do that, because if you don't have that and you don't have the objective in mind, then the next thing that we're going to do is going to be really difficult, which is modeling your retirement. Obviously, a sale of your business does not mean that you're retiring. You can sell your business and go buy another business. You can sell your business and continue to work. But a lot of times, a lot of the people that we talk to, a major part of their retirement plan is the sale of their business. Sometimes it's the only thing that they have. So again, I want you to do an exercise. And if you have a piece of paper, I encourage you, write this down. Imagine the perfect lifestyle of when you actually sell the business, you sign the paperwork, you get the check. What does life look like? Am I sitting on a beach? Am I up in the mountains? Am I traveling the world? Am I in the middle of the city with the hustle and bustle, or am I away from it all, somewhere in a cabin? Think through, what does this life look like? And then I want you to ask a very, very important question. And this is ultimately the crux of building a good financial plan. I want you to ask the question, what if? So you have this lifestyle in mind, and then I want you to ask what if, and fill in the blank with several different scenarios. For example, what if I don't get as much from my business as I thought I was going to? What's my plan? What if my significant other or spouse passes away too soon or too early, and we don't get to travel the world like we thought we were going to? What are we going to do? What if there's a major change in tax rates? What if they go up 25%, 30%? Or what if they go down 25 or 30%? What am I going to do? What if? So envision your perfect retirement, and then start asking, what if? What if I need care? What if I have this perfect retirement set up, but then unfortunately I have to be in a nursing home? What does that look like? So the reason I want you to do that is because we have to create different quote unquote models of retirement. So what is the plan in different situations? Of course, we start with the perfect one. What happens if everything goes according to plan? You get more than you thought you would for your business. You live long, healthy lives. Everything's wonderful. We'll plan that. But then we want to make sure that we're checking all the boxes on the what ifs. What if these things happen, and do we have a plan in place? That leads me to the final point on this slide, considering other sources of income. As I mentioned, a lot of business owners, the majority of their net worth is wrapped up in their business. So they get one check, and that's kind of what they have. They've got to live on that. If you're a couple years out from selling your business and you haven't saved anything else, well, we're going to work with you to try to make sure that that sale goes the best possible way and it takes care of your goals and your what ifs. But if you've got some more time, it makes sense to start thinking about diversifying your net worth. Where are some other items? And we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but I have a trick question for you. And I said it's a trick question. So when it's a trick question, you'll get it. What is the best source of income in terms of taxes? A lot of times I hear capital gains. Those are great. Yep, they're taxed lower than ordinary income. That's not the best form. Sometimes people say, well, Roth distributions, that's a good one. But the best form of income is income you don't have to report. And you're like, that doesn't exist. Yes, it does. There are all kinds of planning tools out there that you haven't thought of yet, likely because you're so busy being the best thing that you are, which is an entrepreneur, that you haven't thought about all these other ways that you can build your net worth over time and create a diversified portfolio for your retirement. So I'm going to throw that out there as a teaser. There's lots of different things that you can do. But first off, you need to create that perfect life. What are you envisioning? What are your life goals? Ask what if, what happens if these different things happen? What am I going to do? And then think about, are there other ways than just the value of my business that I can make sure that these goals and what ifs actually happen? Turn it back over to Jacquelyn.
So Micah, we had a question that somebody asked, which is an amazing question. And the question is, does this information apply to somebody like me, a sole proprietor or LLC consultant? All I really have is my client list. And so if we're thinking about, selling your business, your client list is worth a lot of money to the right people, right? And so some of this is about finding the right positioning for your company and finding the right buyer for your company, but don't ever underestimate the value of the client list that you're building. I mean, think about if you didn't have that client list and you were trying to start in your business right now and you had no clients and you had to start from scratch. You might be able to do it. Maybe you started and you got your client list that you have now from scratch. But if you did, you worked very, very, very hard to get it. And so client lists are very valuable, and they're valuable in all different kinds of industries. I don't know what your industry is, but client lists in insurance or client lists even in a practice like counseling, where you have people who are recurrent clients who might come back to you for strategic advice or for some sort of assistance. Those are really valuable to the right people. So absolutely, this process of selling applies to you. And we sell businesses of all sizes. So we sell $100 million businesses, and we also sell businesses that are $20,000. The sale of those businesses looks really different, but you still need to sell your business, and you still need to make sure that you do everything you can to get the maximum value out of it when you're ready to wind down. And this is a great transition actually to our next slide, which talks about deal structures that drive value. And so there are lots of different ways to structure your deal. So you're a sole proprietorship right now, the person who asked our question. One strategy may be that you don't stay a sole proprietorship, that when you're ready to exit, a few years before you're ready to exit, you bring on a partner who's also a consultant, or you teach somebody your consulting business, and then you transition that money to them. And you may do that in a couple of different ways. And these ways are relevant to everyone. So I'll transition now back to talking more generally, but to the person who asked our question, these are all applicable regardless of the size of your business, the type of your business, that you can control your deal structure in a way that creates possibility and maximizes the value of your company. So obviously the first thing people think about when they talk about deal structures and selling their business is cash at close, right? It's just like the closing of a deal is just like the closing on your house. It's the point where you say, okay, here's my money, or here's the bank's money, and then the person says, okay, here's the house, and you get the keys and you get to walk away. It's the same here with selling your business. And so the first thing everybody thinks about is cash at close. You're going to sell the business, somebody's going to hand you a check and say, here you go, here's money for the value of your business. But you might be able to increase the value of your business to you by having a deal structure that's not just cash at closing. And so sometimes people will do what's called an earn-out. And those can kind of come in a couple of different forms, and we'll talk about different ways. But it might mean that you stay on with the company in some capacity, and you get paid for staying on, or you get paid to transition. That could be bringing a partner in with you. It could be that you stay on in your current role. It could be that you stay on as a consultant, and the person who buys the business becomes primary, and you help them learn how to run the business. Keep in mind that somebody buying your business might not have any familiarity with your industry. So sometimes people come in to a business and they're going to buy it, and they don't know how to make what you make, or they don't know how to do what you do, or they don't know how to sell what you sell. They need to learn it, but they're still willing to buy that business and willing to take that on. And so you can be a really valuable resource. And that can mean sometimes that you're not just getting a check or an amount of cash at closing, but you're getting some ongoing revenue. It might mean a decreased role for you if that's what you want. Maybe it's a few hours a week. Maybe it's a few hours a month. Maybe it's half time. Maybe it's only as they need you. Maybe you're getting paid hourly. Maybe you're getting a monthly fee. Maybe you're getting a portion of your salary. Those are all different options. And then you see to the far right the mention of revenue kickers. That can also be if you have a company that's really poised for growth, they may agree, well, we'll pay you X amount of cash at closing. And then at the end of year one, we agree to pay you this other amount. Maybe say it's $100,000. But if you have 5% growth, we'll pay you $120,000. Or if you have a 5% loss, then we're only going to pay you $80,000, or we're going to pay you less. And so you have to be careful with those structures to make sure that you really believe in the value of the company, and often that you still have some ability to impact the value of the company if you're going to rely on that revenue. So often people will want to stay on if they have a revenue kicker to make sure that the company's sales stay up, or that people are still really dedicated to customer service. But those are other ways that you can get money out of the business. So it can be cash at close. It can be a loan note, like a promissory note, where they're going to pay you out part of what they're going to owe you over time. And that can be one of those ongoing sources of revenue that Micah was talking about. It could be that you stay on in some capacity as an employee or a consultant. And it can be that you get paid out, based on the ongoing revenue of the company. There are other options as well, but those are some of the big ones that can allow you to actually change your deal structure in a way that can really benefit your individual business and can help maximize your profit. So just some things to think about as you look towards selling. Don't just think about that cash at closing. Think about whether there's some other structure that would benefit you. And maybe there isn't. Maybe you're like, no, thought about it. Thanks for the advice, Jacquelyn Core, but I'm all about the money that I'm going to get, and I just want to walk away and go do my own thing. And that's fine too. Every business owner knows what's right for them. Our goal as your advisors, both Micah's goal and my goal, is to figure out what's right for you and to help you do what's right for you. Only you know what's right for you. We're not here to tell you the right way to do it or the way you should exit your business. We're here to help you figure out what the right way is. And we often do that together, working in tandem with clients, where Micah's talking about, okay, well, what are your retirement goals? Or, okay, you're gonna start a business. How much money do you need to have on an ongoing basis to get that new business up and running? And so we're often working together to figure out what are your financial goals, and then for me to help you figure out when you sell your business, how do we maximize your profits to help meet those financial goals? And how do we work with Micah to make sure that structure makes the most sense? And then also working with your accountant, for example, to figure out, as Micah mentioned earlier, what's the maximum tax value? How do you get the most tax advantage out of the sale of your business? And how do we structure your business to make sure that you're paying the least amount of capital gains tax, or whatever might be appropriate for you? These are all considerations that have to go into this kind of complex process of selling a business. And we work with you to really help try to simplify that for you, to make it approachable and manageable and an easy process, and actually a good process. We want you to be excited about the process of selling your business, about what it can do for you, about the possibility that it creates. We want to decrease your stress, decrease your risk in the transaction, and really try to help you through the process. And that's the goal with talking about these different kind of deal structures that you might have. I'll have Micah advance us here. Okay, so let's talk about the deal. So this is really the meat of the sale. What goes on? What goes on behind the curtains? One thing to realize if you're listening is that most people, not all, but most people buy one business and sell one business, and not more than that. There are serial entrepreneurs. So some of you listening might be saying, well, that's crazy. I'm on my 10th business. Or I have 3 businesses right now. And there are people that do that. But the vast majority of people have inherited a family business, or they've built up a business, or they have come into a corporation as an investor and then got a majority share, and they're going to buy one business and they're going to sell one business. And that's going to be it. So that means you don't know what this process looks like, and that's okay. It's totally fine to not know what this process looks like. That's why we're here. So we're going to take you through a really high level description of what this process looks like, to just tell you, if you were going to sell your business, what do the steps look like? And so the first is, how's this process get started? And so if you are a seller, you may get what's called an IOI, an indication of interest. And this is a really simple framework that you get from somebody, usually in writing, that says, I'm interested in looking at buying your company. I might be willing to pay you this much for it. So sometimes it has an amount in the IOI, or I might be interested in it on these terms. I'd like to talk with you about it. And this is where the process of selling your business really begins. And that is the process that gets you ready to sign a non-disclosure agreement and start to share some information with a potential buyer. It's really important that you sign that non-disclosure agreement at this point. If you disclose to a potential buyer how you do what you do, and they are a strategic buyer, they may end up saying, well, we can do that ourselves. We don't need your business. And I will tell you that I've seen this happen multiple times, and you don't want to find yourself in this position. And so before you share the secret sauce of how you run your business, then before you, as my partner Chuck Haddad, who will be joining us on the next one of these webinars we do to talk about family business transitions, as he would say, before you spill all the beans in the lobby, you really need to make sure that you have protection, so that the information that you share that's confidential to your business or proprietary to your business can't be replicated by someone instead of them buying your business. And also that they're not going to share it, that they're not going to go to the country club and talk about what they learned about your business. You want that to remain private. So the IOI is what initiates that. Then the non-disclosure agreement is signed, and then you get to the LOI. The LOI is still binding. It stands for letter of intent. So IOI, indication of intent. I'm telling you, I intend to look at your company to buy it. The letter of intent is, we've nailed down the deal and we're going to buy it. And so when that gets signed, that's when you have a deal. That's when you first have a deal. But what you get is, you get this letter of intent from a potential buyer, and it gives you proposed terms. And so that deal structure we were talking about, we'll give you this much cash at closing. We're willing to pay you $10,000 a month for the next 24 months. We're willing to keep you on as a consultant. Whatever the case might be, there's a revenue kicker, there's not. And then also things like, are they taking over your lease, or do you have real property you're selling them? Are they getting your trademark? Can they use your business name? All those things get memorialized in that letter of intent. They're negotiated. So you're not going to get a letter of intent and it's going to be like, no, I can't live with all this, so I can't have this buyer. That's not the way it works. They're going to submit that to you. You're going to look at it in conjunction with us, and you're going to say, well, I need a little more cash at closing, and I'd be willing to take a little less. Maybe I've modeled some things with Micah. Now, Micah has told me that I really need a corpus of cash that's this big. And so we need to try to turn more of that into cash at close. Or, you know, I've done such a great job investing over the course of my life, even though I was a business owner. That's not likely. Usually business owners, as Micah said, they have all of the money that they're going to have as retirement tied up in their business. But, you know, if they really have done a great job, it might be, I don't need the corpus of money. I need more cash at closing, or not, I don't need more cash at closing, rather, I need more recurring payments. That's more important to me. So what's that structure look like for you? We're going to set that up for you and help you negotiate that in that LOI. When you're happy and the buyer is happy, that gets signed. Most things in it are still considered non-binding. Nobody can force you to sell the company based on the LOI, but it does nail down most of the details. So you do want help for this. One of the biggest mistakes we see is that people will do this LOI process on their own, and then they'll come to us, or they'll go talk to their accountant, those important people on that team of advisors, or they'll agree, I'm going to keep all the people. I'll keep all your people. And then they go to talk to somebody who's an expert in human resources, and that person says, you don't need all these people. You could do this with 5 less people, but in the LOI, you've agreed to keep them. Okay, you don't want to do that as a buyer. Same thing as a seller, though. You don't want to miss maybe saying that somebody agrees to keep your key people, because maybe that's really important to you. Maybe you have a family member working in the business and you want to make sure their job stays. So we'll negotiate all that with you, and you really avoid pitfalls by not doing that LOI on your own. The next process we talked about, which I alluded to earlier, is the diligence process. And this is where, as a seller, you're going to get that list from the buyer that says, here's everything we want to know. We want to see copies of your insurance policies. We want to see your employee handbook. We need to know what benefits you're applying to people. We need to know how much vacation time they have, how much they can carry over to the next year, what everyone's wages are, how much you're paying in rent, what your contracts look like. Is all your corporate governance in place? And you're going to produce a bunch of information. And if we've done that reverse diligence process early, you're going to be really prepared and really ready. Everything's going to look really clean. What you want after the LOI, after that letter of intent, is as few red flags as possible. And so there are 2 things that kill the deal, and you need to know this as a potential seller. One is financing. So you really want people to have their financing terms locked down, and you want to know that the bank has agreed to give them the amount of money they're proposing to pay to you. And then 2 is time. Time kills the deal. So as a seller, you want to get this deal closed as quickly as possible once you have that LOI signed. And that means having your ducks in a row. You want that diligence to go really smoothly. And that's the reason why we recommend, and we often go through that reverse diligence process, because then people are saying, what do you mean you're doing business in Kentucky and you're not registered to do business in Kentucky? If we found that out in advance, we can get you registered to do business in Kentucky. We can take care of that, right? What do you mean you didn't file your decennial report? It's 2021. You had to file your decennial report this year. We've got it all taken care of. No red flags go up. The process doesn't slow down, and we can get you to close more quickly. After we go through diligence, everything looks great because we have you in good order. Then we get to what we call the definitive documents. These are actually your transaction documents. depending on the kind of sale. You have an asset sale, you have a stock purchase, you have a purchase of membership interest. We draft those definitive documents with you. Attachments to those can include your consulting contract or contracts for your major employees. They can include any excluded assets. Maybe there are things that are part of the business that you want to keep that you don't want to sell. We get schedules attached to those agreements that set all those things out. But those definitive documents, they are the deal and they're binding. And so we want those to be right. Typically, we sign those the same time we close the deal. That's called a simultaneous sign and close. We can often, people will want to get the deal memorialized. They'll want to know it's set in stone, but there's a reason they can't close yet. That's when we see asynchronous sign and close. You're going to sign the definitive documents, and then a few weeks later, you're going to close. And that could be you're waiting on something with financing, or you're waiting on a regulatory approval. There are lots of different reasons that happens, but it's cheapest to sell and best if you can do simultaneous sign and close. So the documents get signed at the closing. And that is often when we deal with the debt too. So as a seller, you may have debt on this property or on this business, even if you don't have real property, and it may be tied to your personal assets. So you may have personal guarantees that you've given. Very common for business owners to have given a personal guarantee. And that means your house is tied to the debt in this business. So we want to make sure that all that debt gets taken care of out of the closing proceeds. And we want to make sure that you have maximum protection. Any liens that you may have as the seller are taken care of. Any personal guarantees are released, and that all your debt with regard to this company is dealt with. People usually don't buy debt. So one thing that you need to know as a seller is that your cash at closing or your purchase price is likely to be reduced by the amount of your debt. And so if you have a mortgage or you have a commercial loan on your business, or you have a lot of outstanding bills that you haven't paid, your purchaser is not going to purchase your bills. They are not going to purchase your bank debt. So whatever your purchase price is, if you don't have that debt paid off in advance, is going to get reduced. And out of that purchase price, the buyer is probably going to wire directly to the bank the payoff on your debt. And so that's another thing people have to wrap their head around. Sometimes people who are selling a business will think, okay, this is great. I'm going to get, $5 million for my business, or I'm going to get $20 million, or I'm going to get, maybe you're excited about 200,000. It depends on the size of your business, how many people are involved. Okay, I'm going to get this money. This is going to be great. But they don't think about the debt that's going to be paid off and realize that that's going to be subtracted. And so that gives you and Micah less to work with. And you have to know that and really be transparent with yourself about that and realize the impact of that as you plan. And those are the things that get you to close, where you do get the cash at closing, where you hand over the keys to the business or hand over the client list or whatever you have that are assets, and then your deal is done. And then as a seller, unless you have some ongoing contract, that's when you're at a point where you can walk away and you're kind of free and clear to go on to whatever is next in your life. And so I'll turn it back over. I think, Micah, the next slide is yours. Is that right? Yes.
Awesome, Jacquelyn. That was great. So I'm going to add one thing to this list. I'm going to talk about it first. So what do I do now? What are some practical next steps that I can take, whether I'm going to sell it next year or 15 years from now? What are some things that I should do? And the first thing that I'm going to talk about is get your deal team together. When I say deal team, usually that includes an attorney, someone in Jacquelyn's shoes, a financial advisor, financial planner, someone in my shoes, and typically a CPA or accountant. What you want is a group of professionals who are willing to work together and are willing to talk to each other. I want you to remember, Jacquelyn and I and your CPA, we are the experts in our area, but we work for you. It's our job to make things as painless as possible for you. So if you have an advisor who's not cooperating with your attorney, or CPA who's not willing to, talk to the advisor, find new ones. Like, find people who are going to be in your corner and willing to work together, because I don't have the expertise that Jacquelyn has. That's why we work together. She doesn't have the expertise that I have. That's why we work together. So if you have a group of people, maybe you have different pieces, as Jacquelyn mentioned, you have an attorney, but they don't do mergers, or you work with a financial advisor, but they haven't talked about this type of planning with your business. Find your deal team. Maybe you have one person, you need 2 others, but start figuring out who those people are going to be and build those relationships. We are happy to have complimentary conversations so you get to know us and get a feel for how we do business and how we work with clients. But number one, start thinking about that deal team and make sure, again, they're willing to work together, because it's going to make your life so much easier rather than trying to play telephone, because you talked to Jacquelyn and Jacquelyn said one thing to you and then you bring it to me, but you're not entirely sure what Jacquelyn said because it had been a week. And then I don't understand what Jacquelyn meant. And I'm like, well, Jacquelyn's crazy. Why would she say that? And it just becomes this game of telephone. Work with people who are willing to go directly to one another and get these things done efficiently for you.
And can I jump in and say one thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's an excellent point. And there are other resources that you may end up needing on that deal team. And we can also help you identify those kinds of resources, right? And so if you have a business that is really labor intensive, you have a lot of employees, you may really need to look at the HR aspects. And there are people who deal with people who are experts in M&A. And so, we can introduce you. We can say, Brian McKeever, he's the guy you need to meet who knows about HR when it comes to M&A. Or maybe you need to do advertising to really, market your company and get some growth before sale. Or you want to make sure your website, where do you think people are going to go if they want to buy your company? The first place they're going to go is to your website. And, you don't really think about advertising or marketing as being a place that you would need a resource, but there are people that know about M&A, right? So a guy like Taylor Abbott can step in and can say, I can help you get your business sale ready from an outward facing marketing point. So that deal team, it can be broader, and depending on your individual needs, Micah and I can act as a resource and can help connect you with those people and help you build that team. You might not need everybody. And so you don't want people you don't need, but there might be people that you need that we can also help connect you with.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jacquelyn. All right, so second, investment. There's two pieces of this that I want to talk about. One is the investment into your business. I alluded to this earlier. If you want to maximize the sale of your business, then obviously you need to grow your business. Like, if your business has been stagnant for 20 years, you're likely going to get a less of an offer or a smaller offer than if your business has been growing consistently and you're showing profits and all those things. So this is one of the biggest challenges that I run into with business owners, is they want to take all of their profit and all of their surplus and put it back into the business. And I understand that. I run a practice, I run a business. Eventually I'm going to sell my book of business, and I invest a large percentage of my profits back into my business because I know that it's going to grow. But I also take a pretty decent percentage and I put it into some other avenues. Why? If I told you I had this great stock, it was a company that just started, and I have a 25% shot that it's going to go to the moon, but there's a 50 to 75% shot that it's going to go to zero. I want you to take all of your money and put it into this business. What would you say? You'd probably say, Micah, that's a little silly. Now, it's not the exact same thing, because obviously you are working in your business, you're confident in your business, you believe in your business, you know the ins and outs of it. But if we have all of our money in one place, if that deal doesn't go the way you think you're going to, let's say you were expecting to get 5 million, or we had planned for 5 million, and the market went crazy right when you were about to sell and you couldn't get an offer above 3. Well, that's an issue if we didn't do any other planning on the outside. So trust me, I get it. In your mind, you're the business owner. Hey, I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to invest all my dollars back into my business. But there are other vehicles that make sense. Yeah, they might not be the home run, that you get if you invest in your business and it explodes, but they're going to create consistent returns, and they're going to diversify your risk, essentially. So something to think about: how much of my profits should be going back into my business to maximize the sale, and how much should I go put on the side, make sure that it's growing, but have an extra pot of money in case things don't go the way that I thought they're going to with my business. Obviously, that's something that I can help you plan out, and I'll ask you all the right questions to help you understand what the best is. Anyone who tells you should put all your eggs in one basket, you need to be wary of. Make sure that we're diversifying risk in different types of assets. And then finally, you gotta clarify, quantify what that riding off into the sunset looks like. Again, the perfect, ideal, hey, this is exactly what I want to have happen. If you don't write it down, you'll forget. If you don't write it down and put action steps to it, we're never going to get there. Well, we might get there, but we'll get there on accident. We'll be lucky and we actually meet our goal. Write it down and then have a conversation with whoever your version of me is, and make sure that they are actively working you towards that objective. Again, if your advisor doesn't have experience in mergers and acquisitions, we would be happy to sit down with you and do a full review. Jacquelyn, do you have anything to add?
No, other than just to say that that diversification is so important. And when we see people in the process of sale, Micah, the people who have the least stress about the process of selling their business are the people that they might have even a majority of their eggs in that basket, but it's truly not all their eggs, right? They have some other investments and they feel like they have a plan and have things under control. And so the importance of planning, I just can't underscore that enough in all these aspects.
Absolutely.
So we want to ask you guys to save the date. If you have a family business, so this won't apply to everybody, but if you have a family business and you're planning to transition your family business, my partner, Chuck Haddad, is going to join us on May 19th, and Micah and I are going to be back to talk more about the sale or transition of businesses within families, which are really unique considerations if you are going to either gift or sell part of your business to somebody who's in your family. And so we'll talk about the special considerations related to that. You will get a copy of this webinar. We hope that you have enjoyed it. Please feel free to share it with someone. So if this was useful to you and you have somebody who you think it would be useful for them to watch it, and thank you guys so much for taking the time to join us today. Again, I'm Jacquelyn Core from the Lynch Law Group, and Micah Larson from Equitable has been joining me today. So thank you guys so much, and reach out to us as well. You'll get a follow-up email. We are willing to do with you an individual consultation at no cost to you, because sometimes you do have really specific questions that relate only to your business, and those are better addressed in some time with us where we can talk with you and drill down. And I should add there that if you need to talk to just Micah and not me, that's fine, or just me and not Micah, Micah's fine with that. So we want everybody to meet their individual needs. So feel free to reach out to one of us or the other, or we're happy to coordinate and be on the phone together with you, which is often useful for people. So thanks so much for joining us today. And Micah, I'll give you a minute just to sign off and thank everyone as well.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and we're here to help. If you have any questions, please let us know. We are passionate about this, if you can't tell, and we want to make sure that you get what you put into this business, you get out of it when the time comes. So have a great day, great week, and hopefully we'll see some of you on May 19th.
Thanks so much for joining us.